The 2022 NHL Trade Deadline has concluded. That means it's time to talk about our winners and losers. So, guys, there's a lot to talk about in terms of
That was fast. Holy smokes, that was fast.
Okay, so we got our first comment.
That
Leafs
was
lose at the trade
fast.
deadline.
Speaking of losers, who do I have on my list? They're number 2 losers. I'll mention my number 1 later. My second loser in this trade
Just go in
deadline.
order. Just go in order.
Okay, fine. Jeez. Number 1 is the New York Islanders.
And I
Yeah.
agree with that because they're on my list too. They had guys to get rid of, even though this could be written off as a lost season because of injuries and so on in the arena change. They had to shed some older guys. Instead of re-signing Kale Clutterbuck and Zach Parise, they should have traded them. They should have traded Zdeno Chara. There was interest in those guys. But Lou Lamoriello, once again, being stubborn like he has been for his whole career as a general manager, for good and for bad, doesn't do anything at the deadline.
He's running a retirement home.
I think the Islanders are losers for a couple of reasons. One, I mean, look, this team struggled this season, like you
They
mentioned.
didn't trade Varlamov either.
That, I was literally just about to say that. So thank you. But yeah, so they didn't trade Varlamov, and obviously they didn't trade Clutterbuck, they didn't trade Chara, they didn't trade a lot of guys. Actually, they didn't trade anybody. And the thing is that for the Islanders, it's just frustrating to see. If you're an Islanders fan, I know that, like, look, it's maybe just a one-off season. You're right, but this team, with everything that they've done and everything they've put themselves through, it's a little bit crazy to think about, to be honest. So just, I don't know about the Islanders. They were in my, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what Lou's doing. I don't understand the trade for Parise, the signing of Parise, and I don't even understand the Clutterbuck signing. And if you're an Islander fan, I don't even want to know, because you just trade those guys. I don't know how you sign them, but
and those two guys were heavily rumored to be dealt, including Zdeno Chara. They were weighing options on players. Instead, the reason why they're losers is because they didn't even do anything. They didn't even try to move one guy. And Barzal, like we said so many times, needs to play with an elite sniper, and they didn't even try making a hockey deal either to go get a guy like Besser or something. So, you know what? Let's move on to the next team, because the Islanders, they just piss me off. And
this next one is, it's not controversial, but some people might think of it as a win. But I think the Toronto Maple Leafs, they're losers this trade deadline. They failed on getting a great goalie. A lot of goalies out there that they can grab.
Backup goaltender that's not Mrazek. They signed Harry Satari, sorry, and they put him on waivers because that's the only way to make him eligible to play for them. And Arizona scoops him, and they know that he gets claimed at 2:00. They have an hour to make a deal for a goaltender, and they choose not to.
Okay, so here's my thing.
That's the reason why they're losing.
Well, also, I feel like Giordano, I feel like, I don't know what it is also with the Maple Leafs and getting these big name players that are aging.
Can I?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't think the Leafs are losers. I don't think they're winners, but I don't think they're losers, and here's why. Giordano's a good pickup, regardless of how you look at it. I know he's 38, and
that was a good deal.
On a decline. I'm not gonna lie to you, that was a good pickup. I'm gonna give
the Leafs credit. They addressed their defense. They got a third-round pick for Dermott, which is really good as well. But it's a goalie situation.
Yeah, but here's the thing that I'm trying to say. If you're Toronto, that's why I'm not putting them in the losers category, because they didn't do everything bad. They did exactly what they said they were going to do. They were going to trade Dermott, which they did, and they went to go pick up a defenseman, which they did. The reason why I can't give Toronto winning status or successful trade deadline is because, like you said, they didn't address their goaltending situation. But that doesn't make them losers, in my opinion. I think it just makes them having an okay deadline. But they didn't fill all the holes they needed to fill.
They were unwilling to trade their first-round pick as well. And for a team that's been failing, successful, and that it really depends, because, I mean, you know why it's successful? Because you look at the East, and Toronto is the worst team heading into the playoffs. They will get destroyed by the Rangers. They will get destroyed by the Panthers.
They're going for a first-round exit again.
I don't know if they're the worst. They're probably the worst team in the Atlantic. They're not the worst team going into the playoffs in the East. or not?
I definitely feel that Washington and Boston, who are in a wild card spot, and Boston's about to pass Toronto, are
I
better
just
teams
think,
than
look,
the Toronto Maple
I
Leafs.
don't look. I don't think. I'll be honest with you. I don't think the Leafs. I don't think the Leafs are there yet. Like if you look at what Tampa's done, even if they only made one move, and Florida and Boston and obviously Pittsburgh, Carolina, Rangers, Caps and whatever, those guys all made moves. You're right, but here's the thing: the Leafs, you kind of know what you're getting out of them. Like they're an offensive dynamite, and defensively they needed to improve, and they did. Now, yes, their
One guy
goaltending.
doesn't save. One guy
It,
doesn't
but
make
here's
your defensive core
yeah,
better,
okay, but here's the but well, okay, you can say that, but also Jake Muzzin's coming back for the playoffs. That's two
which is a
guys.
good addition as well.
But
You know,
that,
he's
but
coming
that, this,
back.
the point that I'm trying to make is, and again, look, I don't like the Leafs as much as the next guy, but I'm also being realistic here.
It's not about not liking the Leafs.
But
It's more
here's the thing:
about like the
I'm trying to
moves they
be
didn't make.
realistic, but I'm trying to be realistic and saying, okay, yes, this team didn't add a goalie, but Jack Campbell, like I'm gonna give you, and again, I'm not trying to. I don't think Jack Campbell's as good as people think he is, but if Jack Campbell plays the way he played in the playoffs last year, and he does that against the Bruins or he does that against Florida, chances are they win that series. The only reason the Leafs lost that series last year was because Carey Price stood on his head. I'm
And
not, and the Leafs are not going to win the cup, but I'm saying they're a team that, with the right goaltending and with the right mentality, can get out of the first round. It's just a matter of are they going to be able to do it? And I don't
look,
think that's a question.
there
I
was
don't know if that goaltending
there was
situation
three
is
things.
the
There was
reason.
three things that had to be addressed, and for them to take to go move to the next level. They addressed two out of the three, and this is a time where you look at Toronto's team last year and this year. They're not the same Toronto team. Arguably, their team was so much better last year,
But
and they
you
had an
can't call them
easier path in
losers.
winning. This year, okay, the reason why I give them the biggest, I'm not saying they're the biggest losers, but I'm disappointed in them, because I would like to see a Canadian team win. I have no biases or hates towards Toronto because I'm a Habs fan. I want a Canadian team to win. The thing that really really disappointed me is that they were about to get Marc-Andre Fleury and Brandon Hagel in a deal, and it fell apart, and it was due to the Toronto Maple Leafs not accepting that offer. And for me, that would have made the team so much more dangerous and better. And whatever. But anyways, let's move on to the next team, the next loser. Me and Chris agree on this one. Luca does not. The Philadelphia Flyers, and the reason why we see that the Philadelphia Flyers, and Luca's against this one, of course, is because they've been in a limbo for so many years now, where they've been so mediocre that they never either embraced being total buyers or total sellers. They stay in the middle. And this year is arguably their worst season in the past, I don't know, like 20 years. And they get rid of Giroux, but not only do they get rid of Giroux, they get it. In terms of value in a trade, I felt like it was very underwhelming. They could have got a little bit more, but like Luca was telling us before, his preferred destination was to go to Florida. So the offer you get, is the offer you have to take, and he is your franchise player, and you have to show respect to him, especially if you want him to come back and resign with the Flyers. There has to be somewhat of a mutual agreement in terms of where he would like to go. This is a guy that you cannot just trade and be like, okay, bye. This is a guy that's been pivotal for your organization for many years, and he was the face of the franchise. But not being able to get rid of guys like Ivan Provorov, Travis Sanheim, um, who else? Oh yeah, re-signing Risto Ristanainen for literally no Erasmus Ristanainen, sorry, for at a ludicrous contract of like over $6 million when he has been proven to be either mediocre at best or like really bad defensively. He's more known for his offensive skills, and there's a couple of guys too, like Travis Konecny too, who's
I think they could have moved
underperforming.
Atkinson too.
No, Atkinson would be the one guy I would actually keep moving forward. But there's
Here's
a couple of guys on this team um, that I felt should have been moved. They moved Justin Braun, which was good, and they got a good return for him. They got a third round pick. They moved Derek Brassard. They got a fourth round pick for him, which are good, But like again, I wasn't a big fan of the. I felt like Giroux put them in a situation where they could have got a lot more if he wouldn't have had a
here's
preferred destination. And again, them not choosing to make as many moves hurt them as well.
Here's where I disagree. Okay, so obviously for Philly, we know that they need to embrace a rebuild, and nobody's taking away from the fact that I think we all believe that Philly needs to rebuild. The thing is that a lot of these moves like Konechny, Couturier, whatever, Atkinson, whoever, Provorov, Sanheim, all these guys are not guys that you want to be able to trade at the trade deadline. Now, what I'm trying to say is I'm not saying that it's impossible. What I'm trying to say is a team that's going to look for these types of players are a team that's going to do that during the offseason and not during not during trade deadline. The reason why is because a lot of these teams don't have the cap space to go and make a hockey trade at this
That I'll
point
give you. That I do agree
in the
with.
season. And so that's why I'm not necessarily in agreement with the fact that Philly lost. Do I think that they could have done a little bit more? Sure. But it's not a question of whether they could have done a little bit more or not. It's a question of I think Philly's on the right track if they make the right moves in the offseason. If Philly goes into the offseason this year and they don't do anything or they don't change their roster in any way, then we can turn around and say, okay, what the hell's going on? But I think for Philly, they did exactly what they said they were going to do. They traded Justin Braun. They traded Claude Giroux. Could they have traded a guy like Martin Jones? Probably. Could they have traded a few other pieces as well? Yeah, maybe they could have. But they did the exact same thing. They did the exact thing they were going to do, which was trade Claude Giroux, and they did. Now, Giroux, obviously, in terms of value, you can turn around and say, "Oh, but Giroux maybe you could have got something better out of Boston or Colorado." And apparently, there were better offers. But again, it goes back to Claude Giroux only wanted to go to Florida, so that's the only team you can deal with, and it's unfortunate, but that's kind of how it is. So I don't necessarily think Philly lost. I don't think they won either.
It's a
But I
win
don't
if he comes
consider
back
them
and he signs with
losers.
them.
That's how I see it.
That could put Philly back into having a mediocre deadline. But if Giroud does not re-sign with them at the end of the season, and that was what they gave up for him, that's what they got in return for him, they're gonna be classified as losers in my
Yeah, but
book.
they can't keep him either. You can't turn around and say we're going to keep Giroux. You want to maximize your asset. If that's the
I didn't
best
say
thing,
that. I didn't say that they were gonna keep. They should have kept him.
but,
I'm saying if he
but,
doesn't
but
return and sign
okay,
uh, a
but that's the
short-term
point that
deal
I'm
with
trying to
them,
make.
if he
What
does do
other
that and they
deal?
got that return because that was his preferred destination and that allowed him to have a lot more respect towards the Philly organization for him to consider even coming back, that's a win. But if he does not do that and he ends up walking away and that was the return he got, like,
Yeah, but
you know what?
you can't control that. If the guy doesn't want to come back, he doesn't want to come back. At the end of the day,
I know,
you can't force a guy to come back.
I'm just saying.
So
That's all I have to say
that's
about
how I
that.
see
So
it.
does
Anyway,
anybody else want to add another loser, or those are like the top three we're gonna go with? I know
just
Luca, you had a few teams that.
look, I'm gonna turn around. I'm gonna say something really, really quickly because I want to go into the buyers after. I personally think Ottawa lost, but you guys don't agree. That's fine. I think Ottawa lost. I think trading for Travis Hamonic made 0 sense to this
Yeah,
franchise whatsoever.
it was a bad move.
Um,
It doesn't necessarily make them
wait,
losers.
wait. Trading Zach Sanford for a draft pick, okay, fine, whatever, that's good. To me, even the John Brown trade, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. The thing that I don't understand with Ottawa is they don't have a plan. Okay, they didn't have a plan going into this season, and they don't have a plan now. And the problem with Ottawa is you've got a situation where this team has cap space. They have a lot of cap space.
And they didn't take
In
any bad
fact, they
contracts.
didn't use any of that cap space to do anything.
So you know what?
So
I have to say they are losers. I agree with
because they
you.
didn't use
My,
any
my
cap
mind has
space
changed.
whatsoever.
You
They
convinced
used
me.
zero cap space.
Okay, so
If this team would have gone and said, you know what, we're gonna go and use cap space, we're gonna go and get some players to finish the season. I know that they're saying, oh, we're not in a rebuild. Dude, they have like over 20, they had like over 20 million in cap space. Arizona got more for Brian Little's contract by just taking that. You
yeah,
could have called Montreal and said, hey, we'll take Shea Weber's contract, whatever, give us a few little things, whatever, and it would have been okay. They
yeah.
didn't do that.
They
So,
definitely did not capitalize on the cap space that they had. So Daniel Kim says the best trade was between the Devils and Habs. They strengthen up and will go far into the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah.
Trading Andrew Hammond, definitely a blockbuster deal for the New
Anyways,
Jersey Devils.
moving on to the
Habs
buyers.
legend.
Let's go to the buyers. Let's start with the first one. And
Well, the winners, not the buyers.
Well,
I
yeah,
am
the
the
Well, I mean,
winners, but
winners.
winners.
they
Sorry,
are
you're
buyers.
right.
Some of them are buyers. There are a lot more winners than losers, though. First one, hands down, Florida Panthers. They add Ben Chirot, Claude Giroux, Robert Hagg. They even taken a bad contract to capitalize on Aaron Ekblad being placed on LTIR, and they get an asset in return.
They
They trade
were also involved in the Max Domi trade, in the 3-way trade with Carolina.
yeah, there's that too. Yeah, they acquired Igor Korshkov.
Yeah.
Korshkov and a 2022 6th-round pick in that 3-way deal. I think in terms of the Claude Giroux deal, they didn't give up as much as I thought they would have been able to give up. Honestly, I'm not crazy about Owen Tippett. What else did they do here? They got rid of Frank Fagiano's contract to make room for those guys. The only deal I would say maybe they gave up a little bit too much in terms of value would
Ben
be
Sherrod.
Ben Sherrod. But this is a team that wants to win now. They want to be the best team in Florida, and they're clearly showing it. And the standings even show that they are currently the best team in
Yes.
in Florida. So, and in the Atlantic and in the East too. So they're huge winners, and I think they definitely will go far into the playoffs this year.
Well, and I kind of agree with that. I mean, look, Florida did exactly what they needed to do. They look like the most dangerous team going into the playoffs. They really do. For me, it's the impressive.
We have someone who agrees with us.
And it's one of those things where it's like, I'm very impressed what Bill Zito did. And look, the only one I agree, the only one that they overpaid on, and I mean, we'll see, because it depends if they win the cup, it doesn't matter. But the only one I think they overpaid on was Ben Sherrod. But even at that, they're getting a good defenseman. It's not like they're getting a guy that's trash and whatever. They're getting a guy who's performs in the playoffs, and if you give him the right D partner, he's going to shine and he's going to do well. So I agree with Florida being a winner. I don't know if Chris wants to add anything, but
You guys said it all. I'm just gonna say number 2 for my
Yeah, okay.
winners list. The Montreal Canadiens, hands down,
which we all agree.
the
Yeah.
best trade deadline that I have seen in a long time.
I
And
agree. I think, look, it
And they were
started.
fantastic.
we have the best prospect pool in the league, hands down.
I think
I would say top 5, and the reason why is because
One of the
Montreal's
best.
defensive pool right now. You signed Jordan Harris to a contract. You added
hopefully.
Barron. You have Gouli, Mayu, despite the controversy. Who
Sorry.
else do you have? You have Norlinder. You have Schooneman. You have Strubel. You have so many players that can make the jump and have that NHL potential to be on the Montreal Canadiens roster.
Did you mention Barron?
Yeah, I mentioned Barron, which they just acquired. He's still laughing about before, but
'Cause, bro, what's funny is that last was it, when did we draft him, last year?
Last year.
yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna Bergman is like, let's draft the guy who doesn't want to get drafted by nobody. Logan Mayu.
look, personality-wise, as a human
Aw,
being,
man.
he's a horrible human being for what he did, but as a player, he's very talented. So I'll give him that.
Well, I'm not laughing at what he did. I'm just laughing at I don't want to be traded I don't want to be drafted by anybody.
Yeah.
Who do the Habs? Obviously, the
Whatever.
Habs have to take him.
They maximize
Well, Mark
their
Bergevin
value.
has spoken.
Yeah, Mark
Yeah.
Bergevin.
They maximize their value in Brett Kulak, which Pierre LeBrun on TSN said that if you would have asked me, how much would Brett Kulak be traded for? I would never think a second round pick. I would think you're on crack or something.
Mhm.
And the Edmonton Oilers give a conditional second round pick that could that's in 2022 that could go to 2023. They get a 26-year-old William Lagenson. And they get a 2024 7th-round pick for Brett Kulak, who's been a healthy scratch sometimes this season, even last season too. So in that case, that's fantastic. In Arturi Lehkonen, you get a 2024 2nd-round pick.
That
and
one
top prospect,
I was
Justin
kind of
Ferrari,
disappointed
so-
in that one. Out of all the trades they did, Lehkonen is the one I'm most disappointed with.
Why?
Everybody,
They got a good a top
They
4
got
prospect.
a first round talent.
oh, he's that good.
Yeah.
Like he's a
The-
guarantee.
Yes, he's
Well,
top
like, bro,
4.
like he's got really good potential to be a top 4 defenseman.
They're comparing him to Charlie McAvoy.
Like, is he Romanov good right now?
He's playing in the AHL. He's still
I mean,
developing.
you
He
can't
was
really judge
drafted
because one's
25th
younger than the
overall.
other.
He was drafted 25th overall, and for him to be a top four prospect in Colorado's prospect pool, I mean that's fantastic. Or
I
maybe
mean,
even
would you not have preferred like a first round pick and another
no,
and a
no, because this
second?
guy's
I mean,
established. You already know what you're
you're
getting.
basically getting a first. You're basically getting a first round pick. You're just getting a guy who's established, more established.
Then
I like it. I like the Lekanen trade. I had no issues with it whatsoever.
then you trade Andrew Hammond, just like that out of nowhere because Carey Price is coming back. You have Allen who's back, and you get a C-level prospect who's only 23 years old in Nate Schnarr, who he's going to be a top forward for the Laval Rocket and also could play four line minutes whenever there's injuries for the
Well,
Habs. So I mean that's another win as well. Then
I
you
think
But
maximize on Sherrod's value too. You
by
get
the way,
23
for
first round pick.
the Ben Sherrod deal, I'm pretty sure that the Florida draft there's a it's top 10 protected if I'm not mistaken.
it's
It's
not
not
top.
protected. It's
I,
not
I
protected.
saw that there was a condition on it earlier today when I was looking at
Not,
trades and stuff.
So,
not,
for Ben Sherrod, they get a
uh,
2023 first round pick, a 2022 fourth round pick. They get prospect Tyler Smelanik,
Yeah,
and
it
then
says right. Sorry, it says the Panthers' first round pick in 2022. His top 10
yeah,
protected in the
protected, but
event.
it's gonna go to 2020. It's gonna go to uh. Hold on. Okay,
It's
what?
gonna go to 2024.
anyways, while you guys look for that, also the Tyler Toffoli deal, that was a huge haul for them too. They get a first round pick in this year's draft. Um,
No, it's not. That was probably
There's a lot of
no,
yeah.
created a lot of
Okay,
confusion.
in the event that the Panthers retain their 2022 first round pick, they will no longer own their 2023 first round pick, and Montreal would instead get their 2024 first pick. Wait, what?
So yeah, so
It's
going
very
back to our
confusing.
thing, anyways, let's continue. So, anyways, going back to Tyler Toffoli, they
Okay,
get
that makes sense.
um they get Heineman as a prospect, top prospect that they have very high hopes in. They also get a first round pick. They get a fifth round pick as well, a part of that deal, and they get Rem Pitlick's cousin Tyler Pitlick. So they got a lot in terms of like
Tyson Milanic too, by the way, for the Ben
yeah,
Sherrod deal.
yeah. So yeah, I mentioned that before. So
Oh,
in
sorry.
terms, yeah, it's okay. In terms of
Okay. How I understand it is basically how I get it is
Came out of nowhere. Yeah, go.
how I understand is that based on what the Habs are doing is that if Florida were to finish in the top 10, they would keep that pick, and then Montreal they would also keep their 2023 pick as well, I believe, and Montreal will get 2024. But because Florida is not going to finish in the top 10, I think it's a 2023 pick. So I think it's not protected either way. But I don't know. I don't know how the
anyways,
full conditions is. It doesn't really
as
matter.
as
They, they,
for the
man, they
first,
did well.
we could conclude that as the first trade deadline for the Gordon and Hughes duo, it was a huge success. And they just deepened their prospect pool. They showed that they definitely do have a plan moving forward in terms of what they're trying to establish, and they're heavily keen on player development and building through the draft and through prospects. So that's a huge win for them.
I was also watching an interview before he switched on to the next team with Kent Hughes that they asked him, Jeff Petrie was going to get traded this trade deadline, and they said, that they spoke with him, and if it happens, it happens. He said it depends on the offer, and he said that they see him as a valuable asset to keep on the team. They don't really want to move him, but if ever they get an offer that they're gonna take it.
Yeah. Anyways, let's move on to the next team. Another seller that were winners, and you know they also had a first-time GM in Verbeek, and that is the Anaheim Ducks. They
Yeah.
traded Evgeny Dandanov. They got Evgeny Dandanov in a second-round pick in exchange for John Moore, which they got in the Boston deal where they sent Hampus Lindholm to Boston. They traded away Ryan Kessler's contract, which already in that deal, that in my eyes, that's a huge W. And it hasn't been announced yet whether the second round pick's a 2023 or 2024. But Dandanov's not a bad player by any means, and you're getting rid of Kessler's contract, and you're getting a second round pick with Dandanov. That's amazing. Then the haul they got for Hampus Lindholm. No disrespect towards him, but he's not worth what they got from Boston.
Sorry,
Um,
sorry, I accidentally click on this comment, but we're gonna answer it. It's no.
Yeah, I don't. They're definitely gonna have a good playoff run, but I definitely think their time is up in terms of winning the Stanley Cup at least this year. Maybe next year, um, that would be possible. They get a third round pick for Nicolas Delorier, which, and honestly, in my opinion, is like an absolute steal. But in all, okay, this is what they end up with after trading John Manson, Hampus Lindholm, Nicolas Delorier. They get a first round pick in 2022, a second round pick in 2023, a second round pick in 2023, a 2023 third round pick, a 2024 second round pick, Drew Hellison, Urho Vakanainen, and yeah, and then obviously with the deal that I was talking to you guys about concerning Dandanov that was announced not so long ago. Um, Verbeek and Hughes as first time GMs, very impressive at this year's deadline, and they were the
Yep,
best sellers this
I
year.
actually have
I
a
agree. I
comment.
think the Ducks.
I have a comment here that kind of summarizes what you guys described. The Verbeek manhandled this trade deadline, as Winterborn said. I 100%. That's. I mean, listen. As a Ducks fan. I'm very happy, and especially in that.
Both your
Kes-
teams were
yeah,
winners.
yeah, yeah. So and I'm happy that Ryan Getzlaff is still on the team. There was a lot of people that were saying Ryan Getzlaff might get moved, and I was really hoping he'd stay
And
because
also, they trade away Ricard Raquel to Pittsburgh. They get Zach Ashton Reese, Dominic Simon, a 2022 second round pick, and goalie prospect Kale Klang. So honestly,
I
guys,
love I love that move for the Ducks. I really do. Cal Klang's
these
a
guys that y'all
really
traded
interesting.
are all UFAs on top of
I
that.
like I like Cal Klang, especially the prospect that the Penguins gave away. I know he's a goalie prospect. I like him. I think he's got a lot of upside. So I really like that move for the Ducks a lot. Even the other assets were pretty good as well. So good move. All in all, I think the Ducks won the trade deadline
Yeah,
altogether, in my opinion,
yeah,
just in
they
terms of what they
definitely did.
got.
They were the biggest winners.
Montreal's a close second, and I would say Florida's a close
In
third.
terms
But
of like sellers and stuff. Yeah, we do think Drew was the biggest star apart from uh Marc Andre Fleury, who was traded to Minnesota today. But yeah, it definitely was. And the goalie prospect is something to keep an eye on. I'm telling you, I really think John Gibson is going to be shopped in the offseason. I mean,
and I agree with that. I
he
agree
has
with that.
voiced his displeasure in the past about the direction of the team, and he doesn't want to continue losing. He wants to be on a winning team, so that's very possible. So let's continue to our next team, the New York Rangers, who literally did absolutely nothing until deadline day. They add Tyler Mott. They trade away a 2023 fourth round pick, and that's good value for that guy. This is a guy who's very competitive. He hits, and that's something you need in the playoffs to go deep into the playoffs. He was very underappreciated, underrated for the Vancouver Canucks. I think he's a fantastic addition in terms of adding him on the third line or the fourth line, and on that penalty kill, he's a really good shutdown player that has somewhat some of offensive upside. Then you add Andrew Kopp. Holy crap. And a 2023 sixth round pick. Yeah. In exchange, and they gave away a 2023 fifth round pick, a pair of conditional second round picks, and prospect Morgan Barron, which is the brother of the Montreal Canadiens prospect Barron that they got from Colorado. Who else did they get? They got Frank Vetrano as well. They gave up a fourth round pick. They got Justin Braun from Philly. They gave up a third round pick. Yeah, and then there was like a minor deal, but I mean, doesn't really change anything. So, in terms of the value they gave up for players and the players they got in return, the Rangers, as buyers, in my opinion, gave up very little and got a lot more in return. You get Cop for secondary scoring. You get Mott, who's literally fantastic in terms of for a playoff run. You get Frank Verchano, who's good again, a good addition for the playoff run as well. And you get Justin Braun. You add more physicality and more I don't know, like weight on defense as well.
I
Well, they didn't
I
give up,
think the
and
Rangers,
what I like is they didn't give up any of the young guys that I
Yeah,
thought were gonna
they
get
kept
traded.
Hiddle, they kept Kraftstov, they kept Lilligren, or is it Lindgren or Lundqvist or whatever his name
Lundqvist.
is,
Okay.
Capo
Lundqvist. Okay,
Caco.
they didn't get rid of Capocaco or Lafreniere. Everything stayed intact, and for Chris Jury, you know, which was highly criticized for getting rid of Buchnevich in the offseason, he makes up for it in this deadline,
Well,
and I think that's why they're winners.
I think the Rangers, what they did, and I'll be honest. In the live stream at the beginning, right when as the time was winding down, I was saying that the Rangers were losers because they hadn't added anything, and then they went to go add Andrew Copp. I think Chris Drury, his patience really paid off for him in the end, because I know they were in on Lekanen, they were in on a few other forwards as
They were in
well,
on every single guy,
pretty much every
Brock
single
Besser,
guy.
JT Miller, like
That's it.
everybody.
They were in on everybody, and I think that's kind of what I'm happy about in terms of the Rangers is Andrew Copp's a good acquisition. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league, in my opinion, and I think going to the Rangers is definitely going to help them a lot. I really like Tyler Mott. I think on that fourth line with Barclay Goodrow or even Dryden Hunt and Ryan Reeves or whoever they add on that fourth line, the Rangers are going to be a tough team to play against. And not only that, it's a question of the Rangers being
Basically
exactly what,
sums it up with the
yeah.
Daniel Kim just said right
But
now.
I think what's interesting with the Rangers too is they've got themselves a really good team moving forward, and obviously Justin Braun provides some stability on that defensive core as well. I think the Rangers have a good shot here. It depends on how much they
That would be
decide
amazing.
to on how much they decide to do moving forward. But the Rangers are a good team. If Shesterkin can I mean not recently, but like if Shesterkin could find his game and become a real force in the playoffs, the Rangers have a chance of going really, really
I
far.
mean, in
It's
my
just a
opinion,
question
he is
of,
the best goaltender this season. No
yeah,
doubt.
but I
I
mean
have
the
no
last couple
doubt.
of games he's been
It's
a bit
fine.
shaky.
It's
But
it's excusable when you're that good. It's
no,
excusable.
no, I know. I'm just saying lately he's been a little bit shaky. But I mean, look,
Anyways,
Georgiev had a 44 save shutout the other night, so
so
the Rangers shouldn't worry about it too much.
yeah, to keep your prospect pool intact and not give up much and add in terms of hoping for a big playoff run. I think the Rangers are a very scary team. They were a scary team before this deadline, but they're even more scarier now. So moving on to our second to last team in terms of winners, the Colorado Avalanche. So they add Andrew Colliano today. And they gave up a 2024 fifth round pick, which is literally nothing. That adds more depth to their team. Then there's the big blockbuster deal concerning Arturi Lehkonen. They gave up a 2024 second round pick and one of their top prospects in Justin Barron. Um, what else did they do here? Second. Oh, they added Josh Manson as well at the beginning of the week. And they also traded Tyson Jost for
Nico
Nico Sturm.
Stern.
Stern as well as a
Well, I
good
think,
penalty guy, a penalty killing guy that's going to really help and benefit them in the playoffs and on the penalty kill as well. Um, I mean, yeah, and they also gave up prospect Drew Hellison and a second round pick for like Josh Manson,
and
like I was saying before. But again, they didn't really have to add much. They're literally the second or the first best team in the league, and for them to give up what they gave up in terms of getting those players, they added players that are not only going to be very crucial in getting them far into the playoffs. Arturi Lehkonen, shutdown guy, could play up and down the lineup. Also, you know, on the penalty kill, he's fantastic, and now he's scoring goals this season too. You couldn't really ask more for as a Colorado fan. You couldn't ask more from the Colorado Avalanche in terms of what they were able to acquire at the deadline, and that's why they're winners.
I mean, I agree. I think, look, Colorado did exactly what they needed to do. They were in on Giroux too. Unfortunately, Giroux chose Florida, which is okay. But I think if you're Colorado, I mean, you've got everything you need to go for a cup run now. You've got all your assets. You went to go get Lehkonen, who we know what he's capable of in the playoffs. They went to go get Josh Manson to improve their decor. And now, even with the other two acquisitions of Cogliano and Sturm, like they've got depth, they've got good defense, and they've added a guy who in the playoffs can really be a big impact player for them in Lehkonen. I think I
Like
think
the
uh,
like the Rangers, basically,
I think the Avs did well. So Good for
Like
them.
the Rangers, both those teams had very little holes to close up, and that's exactly what they did. And in my opinion, yeah, maybe they gave up a little bit too much on Colorado's end, but you're in win now mode. You want to win now, and that's the same
They
thing
want
for
to
the
win a cup.
Rangers,
So
and that's the same thing for the next team we're talking about, and that's our last team that we're going to be covering in terms of winners, and they were huge buyers as well at this deadline, the Calgary Flames. So they add Ryan Carpenter in exchange for a 2024 fifth round pick. They added Tyler Toffoli by giving up Tyler Pitlick, 2023 first round pick, prospect,
Heineman.
um, Heineman, and a fifth round pick. And having Toffoli signed past the season for 2 more years, and what he's able to do and how he's been playing under Daryl Sutter, and having that connection with Daryl
they
Sutter,
also
but also
added
having that connection with Luke
Yarncroc
Cheech
too.
as well, and Markstrom, and also Chris Tanev. You know, you can't ask for a better fit for Tyler Toffoli, and for what they gave up for both sides, I think it was fair. It was fair in value. Um, Also, what are they?
They added Yarncroc.
They added Young Croc as well. They gave up. Let me look for the deal here. I know they gave up 2 second round picks. Just trying to
Two
see.
seconds and a third, I believe, or 2 seconds and a seventh, I believe. Something like that. I don't remember. 2 seconds. No, second, third, and seventh. I think. Was that right? I don't know.
Give me a second.
I'm guessing no, but I know that it's one of the three. Look, either way, I think Calgary's done. Calgary's done a lot of really good business. I think Calgary again too is one of those teams that's really underrated. Going into the playoffs, I think the only team in the West that's better than them is Colorado, and even then, I think that they're pretty evenly matched.
Yeah, Young Croc, 2022 second
Yeah,
round pick. That was originally Florida's 2023 third round pick,
and a seventh,
and a
right?
2024 seventh round pick.
Yeah, okay.
And
But so that's
Seattle retains 50%.
That's it. I think Calgary. Look, they've done well this offseason. They've sorry, not this this trade deadline. I think they've really added pieces where they needed to add pieces, and obviously, Daryl Sutter and Toffoli have a history there. Yarncroke, we all know what his relationship is with Lindholm and Markstrom. I think Calgary is one of those teams to watch out for, and obviously, we all know what Daryl Sutter type of coach Daryl Sutter is. He's the type of coach that's going to be defense first, and it's going to be low scoring games. But for Calgary, that's exactly what you want in the playoffs, and they've got every single piece they need to make a deep playoff run. And even adding a guy like Ryan Carpenter, he's going to be a guy
Yeah.
that's going to he's going to be a lot of sandpaper. He's going to get into the
And
corners.
what I like about
Young,
Young Croc as
I
well
like it.
is that he's cousins with the goaltender, the Calgary Flames, Markstrom, and he's
Yeah,
also cousins with Lindholm as well. So like
exactly.
Toffoli and Young Croc were perfectly planned out in terms of the connections that and the ties they had with the Calgary Flames, the coaches and the players on the team, and you couldn't ask for a better fit. And the value that the assets they gave up were fair value for both teams, and that's a team to look out for.
Yeah,
Um, and that concludes our episode, guys. We're going to be taking a week off because we had so much coverage within the last 2 months. I think we owe ourselves a break. We're going to be coming with a new series called the Cupper Bus series. We have a special guest coming up on next Monday, so look out for that. Make sure to catch up with all our trade breakdowns, our coverage of the trade deadline, our predictions. Just catch up on any content that we posted in since we started from the beginning. While you wait for us for next week, and we just wanted to say thank you so much for all the support in terms of subscribers, the likes, the comments, the interactions, everything, the deadline coverage. You guys are very special to us. Without you, we're literally nothing. We wouldn't have the success that we have right now without any of you guys. And we want to give you a special shout out for that. And we'll see you next Monday. So thank you guys. Until the next episode. Enjoy.